Okay, we're in chapter apes, chapter 8, apes out there, and I'm on page 221. This is the second part of chapter 8. So soils is super important in environmental studies, so I would know this quite a bit for the AP test. It's important for filtering surface water into aquifers. It's important for habitat. It's important for what plants are going to grow on the earth. So soil, I would think, is a big part of the AP test. So we'll need to know this quite a bit. So this is a picture of ecosystem services provided by soil. Remember, they're going to ask about ecosystem services on the AP test. Services means what doesn't the environment provide for the earth, for humans, for plants, for animals. What services does the ecosystem provide for us? And I wouldn't just remember to focus on humans. I would focus on everything that we need in the earth. So what does it do for plants? What does it do for animals? What does it do for the atmosphere? All those kind of things. That's an ecosystem service. Okay. So, for example, it breaks down organic matter and recycles nutrients. Very important. Soil holds a lot of chemicals that we need for plant growth, for animal growth. It also filters water. Very, very important ecosystem service. So water is going to come down in the form of precipitation, and it's going to filter through the soil and go down into aquifers or into surface water. So soil is very, very important to clean up dirty water, to have nice pristine water down in our aquifers. So that's soil that's not been polluted or anything. Normal, good soil is excellent, does a lot of excellent things for us as an ecosystem service. And remember, it doesn't do it just for people, it does it for animals and plants. So there's factors that that determine the formation of soil. And remember, soil comes from parent materials, which means rocks. So the type of soil that you're going to get from a parent material depends on the chemicals that are in that rock that you're starting with. So we're going to start with plain rock. It's going to start being eroded by water, wind, or plants and turn into a soil. So the parent material is important from what we're starting with. The climate's going to affect how long it takes to make that soil and what soil you get from it. So if you have a lot of rain, it's going to affect what type of soil that you make. The slope of the land is going to affect the soil and the depth of the soil that you make, and the plants and animals that like to live there are going to affect how much soil, how deep the soil is, what type of soil you make. And how long you've let this happen determines the soil that you're going to make. So soil is super important for us as humans because it's there to make plants grow healthfully. And so we really, really need to protect our soil. We don't realize that it takes thousands of years to get a really nice productive soil, like the soil in the Central Valley. Super productive because it's been there a long time and it's been made from a wetlands that's been drained. And so the humic acid in that is phenomenal. It's holding tons of chemicals for us. So we need to really, really remember that soil is precious. They're going to talk to you about that on the AP test, so you're going to need to know this for the AP test. So I would really, really understand soils. So parent material means the rock that you're starting with. Let me get to that page in my book. So you have mostly rock at the beginning, and it's going to start getting weathered, and then plants are going to live on it, then they're going to die, and that's going to combine with the parent rock you have and turn into a good soil. The longer you've allowed it to grow, this parent material has been allowed to weather and plants have grown on it, the more mature soil you're going to have. And this gets deeper and deeper and deeper as that organic material goes down, and you have layers and layers and layers of organics on top, interacting with the rocks underneath. So as it develops, you're going to have different layers. So the O horizon has matter that's decomposing, has plant and animal material that's decomposing. The A horizon is the underlying organic material that's mixed with the mineral material. So you have that interface between organic and rock material underneath it. So that's the interface of those two. B is called the subsoil, and that's where you have lots of metals and nutrients accumulating because of water and precipitation going through the top of the soil. The C horizon is called subsoil also, and it's the least weathered portion of the soil profile, and it's similar to the rock that you started out with. So as you go from O to C, you can have less and less weathered parent material. Sometimes you have an E horizon, and it occurs between the O and the A horizons. And they show you thicknesses there, so you get the idea of which ones are thin. And so the O is going to be very thin, so that's why we don't want to have a lot of erosion happening, because once you lose that, the O and the A, you're not going to be able to grow anything somewhere. So erosion is going to get rid of these layers. So here's definitions of each one, like I just said. So the physical properties of the soil depend on the parent material, and some rocks are going to form lots of clay, some are going to form silt, some are going to form sand. So look at the differences in the size here. Clay is a little pin dot there, a little dot. Silt is bigger, and sand is really big. So remember the differences between these three sizes. They're important. So clay is the smallest. Clay is very important. It has a negative charge to it, so it's able to hold a lot of ions next to it. Unfortunately, they're held really tight, so that plants really can't get a lot of the nutrients away from the clay. So it's good to have clay in your soil, but if you have too much, the plants are not going to be able to live in it. So we're going to look at this triangle in class. So we'll figure out what soils are, what type of soil they are. So this is a way of typing soil. So the good soils are mixtures of things, like loams are good for plants, and different plants like different types of soil. Porosity is porosity comes from the word pore, which means little holes and channels in the soil. So porosity is a percent open space, and that allows, if it has a high porosity, then water's going to be able to go through it really well. If it has low porosity, it's not going to have water go through it from top to bottom very well. So for example, the bigger the size of the particles, the easier the water is going to go through. So sand's really easy. As you know, you go to the beach, the wave goes on top, and as the wave goes away, you don't see any water anymore because it's gone through the sand. Clay is the exact opposite. It takes a long time for water to go through it. So that's why it's not good. A really heavily clay soil is not good for plants because the water can't get to the roots. These are chemical properties of soil. They have the ability to hold on to positive charged atoms, like clay I said is the best to hold on to things because it's very negatively charged and it's small. These are chemicals that you would find in soil, and we'll talk about the chemical properties of soil in class. So we'll test soils in class, and we'll look at pH. That's the amount of H+ ions that are in the soil. Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. These are all things that plants and animals need, so they're important. The percentage of those in soil, especially nitrogen. Nitrogen is very important because it forms amino acids. It's an essential nutrient. These are all essentials. So that's these are the things that would be in a fertilizer that you'd buy at the store. So it's called the NPK ratio, and we'll talk about that in class when we do labs. There's tons of animals and things that love to live in soil, and those things improve the soil as they wind their way through there. As the worms go through there, they eat soil and let the soil and their waste pass through there, so they add organic material to the soil. So these guys are super important for soil. These things are bad for soil: eroding, compaction, nutrient depletion. So erosion means when you have ag practices where they let a lot of water and soil drain down a hill and remove the topsoil. Really bad because it takes forever to grow for topsoil to form. Soil compaction is when you have a bunch of animals or ATVs or whatever running all over soil, and it squeezes it together, and you have no more pores left there, and then you can't let water will not be able to go through it, and so plants will die off. So compaction is bad. Nutrient depletion, when you have a lot of agriculture or you let a lot of water go through it, then all those nice nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium are going to get leached out of the soil. This will be a big topic on the AP test, so we need to know these things. Here's what the Earth has in it: mostly oxygen, a lot of silicon. So silicon and oxygen together make sand. So that's why these are a big part of the Earth's crust. Then we have little tiny guys. Let me get to this page. This is just showing you, like the last slide, what kind of ions we have in the Earth's crust. These are metal reserves that people are going to want to grab out of the Earth. And so iron's huge, aluminum, copper, lead. These are all things that we like to take out of the soil, mine it, and use it in different ways. So these are called our reserves. There's different types of mining, and this will be another important topic on your AP test. Strip mining is where they just remove strips of soil and let the find what they want and then just leave it like that. Really bad for the environment because the water goes in that area and then leaches out all the chemicals that they just stripped out and goes into the surface waters. Really bad way of mining. Open pit mining, you make a big giant hole, and also a bad way for the earth because all the water that goes into those pits now are filled with lots of chemicals. You can remove a whole top of a mountain. Not so great either. A lot of mines have these have a lot of environmental impact, so we need to talk about these in class, and you'll need to know them for the AP test. Placer mining is looking for metals and stone in river sediments. That's what the 49er gold rush people did. They would just look in streams and pan for gold. But then they got creative by taking big giant hydraulic hoses and like washing down whole sides of mountains. So they kind of remove stuff, and they're still, and then all the sediment goes into the river, which is bad for the fish and plants that live there. So placer mining also has problems. So we'll talk about the advantages and disadvantages of these types of mining because you'll need to know those. Here's examples of mining. And here's the types and the effects that they have on everything. So this is an important item to know right here. I would know this one for the AP test. After they do their mining, then people have to fix the mines unless they're in areas where there's no laws regarding how you mine. So sometimes they're going to fill in the hole, they're going to replace the topsoil, they're going to try to make it look kind of nice the way it used to be. And this is the important part, is the water drainage, because it usually has a lot of acid in it, and that's bad for fish and plants around it. And hopefully you're going to replant with native species. So if they reclaim in a nice way, they're going to do all these things. So this would be a really good thing to remember for AP FRQ kind of question, to say, hey, how are you going to fix up a mine after somebody takes out all the resources from it? Okay, that's the end of the chapter. So I need you guys to do the multiple choice on page 231 and 232, which is 1 through 12, and then do the FRQ 1 and 2 on page 232, and I'll tell you in class when it's due. Thanks guys, I'll talk to you soon.